when a firm receives its avoidable requisitions organization data, what should its first 90 days of action look like? And if I can work it out, we'll go in alphabetical order. So Adil first.
Yeah, so I think I mean it's something that Kate and PCSR are actually probably an example of on this call. I think you look at your most common avoidable requisition, do a cause analysis on it. It's not an exercise to assign blame, but really to identify where in the process it actually originates. And once you know the root cause, you can put in controls at the right point. You know, adding something to a checklist or some sort of validation step before moving to submission. And that way you can just knock out a whole category of requisitions as they've already done. And then at the 90-day mark, I guess, measure the impact of the changes. And then, if things are working, work your way down that requisition list.
Okay. And Kate, would you agree with that? Have you got anything to add to that,
Yeah,
perhaps?
no, definitely. So for us, we'll be looking at how we can make that process even better because we've already had a reduction, so it'd be nice if we could continue with that. So for us, we'll be looking at the data. I think also what I would like to add, it would be good if we could see the data all the time because we sort of wait 6 months or 3 months or whatever to actually see it. Whereas I think if we could be monitoring it more regular from our point of view, that would be helpful as well.
Okay, Louise?
I mean, my short answer has to be use InfoTrack, but the slightly longer one would be to break down, as the guys say, like breakdown of the avoidable requisitions, which ones sort of match up with software that can really block them from going through, like the ones which are truly avoidable, sort of inexcusable in some ways, and really start to put that support in for the team so that they can lower those rates.
Okay, and Roger, from HMLR's point of view?
The first 90 days is interesting. I think we all know it's going to be continual improvement as we keep going and situation of that. I think Kate's right. We're trying to make life easier for everybody. So it's about validation and training. If you can continually look at those two things about how do you validate this data, as Louise said, with the portal, it's going to be when you insert the data. That's when we're going to validate it for you. That's what Land Register is going to do. But if you can validate it before that process, as Adil says, as you pass things between people, it's all designed to make life easier for everyone in the process. And finally, get the training as much as you can take, as much as we can offer to ensure that your team understand what are the issues that doing something will have on the process. I think if we can get that cultural change, then I think actually the impact will be so much easier than just focusing on the numbers. I think it's a cultural change supported by the data.
So just very quickly and finally then, if there was one change you would recommend to a firm, what would it be, Adil?
Map the process first.
Sorry? Sorry?
Map the process.
Map it.
Like if you don't have the process mapped out, how can you improve anything, right? And so many firms, as I've mentioned before, don't have a process manual, they don't have a playbook. They'll have like a onboarding guide for post completion, but it's not the same thing as how to do the job. It's how to use the systems, but actually just each step mapping it out, and that's really the starting point. If you do nothing else, map the process.
And do you think everybody understands the phrase mapping and playbook? Because I don't, but I'm
Okay.
ancient.
Fair enough. So by playbook, I mean almost like an operating manual. How do you do post-completion work, right? What steps does it need to go through? What are the checklists? How does it go from, the file being completed, the SDLT being paid, to then handed over to the post-completion department? What checks they need to do in the first instance? What tools are you using for submission? What happens after that? How do you manage requisitions? How do you escalate, at various points, et cetera, all the way to the file being closed? If you don't have a full view of that process, you can't fix things in the middle. So the first step would be to, as I said, map the process.
Okay, Kate, and one thing from you, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's just introducing your checklist maybe, because something as simple as that could reduce your own requisitions. So yeah, it's just reviewing your processes and procedures. Look at when's the last time have you done it? Because post completion can be neglected sometimes, and then hopefully you might see an improvement.
And Louise, from yourself?
I think the reporting is a really big thing to get right quite quickly. If you don't have that oversight around the teams, volumes, requisition rates, and things like that, any changes that you do make, you won't really know the direct impact of it. So getting that continual reporting set up would be a good thing to do quickly, I'd say.
And Roger, finally, one big final wish from HMLO, perhaps, or suggestion?
Support everything that everyone said. I think the data is there to support those discussions about process. But if I was looking at the data, I'd look at those errors as the place to start, and look at understanding it. So a bit of dashboard, as Louise was saying, a bit of process that Adil was saying. But that's where you're going to see, I think, the biggest changes as quickly as possible. But also just remember about bringing that whole culture with you. We're not sending this data out to make life more difficult. It's there absolutely to support. And the way that Kate's articulated, the data's there to make your life easier, the support's there to make your life easier, and because of that we all get a better, faster, and the integrity of the register is all there as well. So it's a fantastic opportunity to use it to gain across the spectrum of conveyancing.